A very warm welcome, Margaret. Lovely to see you, and thank you for accepting my invite to partake in this podcast.
Mm.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Yeah, it's sweet to have been asked, and um, the the questions that you gave ahead of time just really gave me a lot to think about and remember, and we'll see what comes out.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So I've got a nice warm up question for you, and that is, what is bringing you joy right now?
Mhm. Yeah. Um, one thing that's kind of new in my life, there was a law change in Canada, and for a certain population who really couldn't have access to citizenship, they've expanded their, pathway in, and so I've suddenly learned that by this law, I am considered a Canadian citizen. Now, I can't do anything with that until I apply for a certificate of citizenship, and I'm in the process of doing that. Um, it's just, like, such a sweet connection I've always had to that country through my mother. Stories about her parents, I never knew them. And so to think now that I could have dual citizenship, I'm just really delighted by it, and it ties into some study around my own heritage. It's quite new in the last couple of weeks, and I'm really delighted.
Oh, how lovely.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing I'll say about it that, um, it's odd to say, but I've had a felt sense of connection with the Commonwealth,
Mhm.
and to have the idea that I could become a member of the Commonwealth, it has to do with what I've learned about the role of monarchy, which I always thought was crazy, honestly. But the fact that there's a part of leadership that holds the long, long view and that holds dignity as the kind of leadership value. I think right now in the country that I live in, to have some way of planting dignity for the long haul and,
Mm,
respect and recognition of human values like that, I'm sorely in need of that connection, so that's part of
yeah.
what's delighting me about this. And I know
Yeah.
there's all kinds of other things in the press about what I should be concerned about around royalty and all that, ha. But there's something about the long view.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. Yeah, lovely. And I'd love to start by hearing about your background, your own personal journey into meditation, eco awareness, and things like that. But before we delve into that, could you say a little bit about what you are currently up to in the mindfulness and meditation world?
Yeah, my main project right now is called the MBSR and EcoAwareness Project, and I began that 3 years ago after having really, it's a transformation of my understanding of the potentials of mindfulness and wakefulness, an expansion into beyond the human focus, and a recognition that this can really bring me into an embodied understanding of the interconnected web of life across time and space, and how Real that level of realization, that richness of realization, that expansion of realization is critical for us on the planet right now. So I'm working
Mm.
with, MBI teachers primarily, almost exclusively, to help any of them who are interested in bringing that into their own understanding and into their teaching. And that's my main work right now.
Wonderful. And whereabouts are you doing your work as well for people who may not know your background?
Well, I live in Concord, New Hampshire in the US, and
Mm.
I do my work online, so I work with teachers internationally, whoever finds me. The biggest part of the work is just getting the word out and the more so the idea, the possibility, the potential of that out. Sometimes I just say it like this: "Can you invite the earth into your classroom?" I mean,
Mhm.
literally, can you do that? If that's intriguing to you as a means for, playing your part and what we need to do to shift the tide, big big tide, lot of interconnected pieces in the polycrisis that we are in. But wakefulness has always been, kind of the universal solvent, And it feels to me like this is critical work for us in our time as mindfulness professionals.
Mhm. Yeah, I certainly will go into that a little bit further into this interview. Can we go back to what brought you to mindfulness in the first place and what eventually led you into teaching and then maybe teacher training as well?
Sure. I am a former banker. I am a former business owner. I
Mm,
have a checkered professional past. And my husband, I don't think he'd identify as a seeker now, but he's just always been really interested in big questions.
mm,
So it was like in my late 30s, early 40s, he would hand me the best of the books that he was reading from Joseph Campbell, mythologist, and from Krishnamurti, just like uh, really philosophy of life. Who are we? What are we? What is this? So we say that it's his fault that this all happened.
mhm,
And I did a lot of reading, and there was enough repetition of the idea that if you really think this is something for you, you're gonna have to sit down and do some practice. And so eventually, after a little while, we both said, "We're gonna need to do that," and so we started looking around for a teacher. I signed up for a yoga, series and then a yoga teacher training. But I realized early on there's something going on in here that they're not even telling us about, but there's something. And we eventually found our teacher. His name is Norman Scrimshaw. He's here in New Hampshire. He lives on a beautiful mountain. Everybody should have their teacher on a mountain, don't you think?
I think so, certainly.
And, he had a very, very small teaching, but a huge realization and ability to articulate that. And I'm like type A meditation teacher. So I just went right after him and said, "We need more. What do you need? Can I help you? Can we have retreats? Can we have evenings?" His form is called satsang. And he's kind of just leaned back and said, "Well, if you feel that, if you want to do all that work, okay, sure, yeah. And I'd be happy to do the teaching." So we built a sangha around him and had retreats, and the strongest formative experience I had was really sometimes living with him for days at a
Mhm,
time on retreat, but also just doing the work of organizing and bringing people together. His embodiment, uh, and he's sort of a unpublished poet in the way that he speaks and invites, and, he came through a teacher whose name is Adyashanti, originally a Zen teacher who then began to teach beyond the form of Zen, direct direct transmission,
mhm,
and, spontaneous enlightenment, spontaneous speech, and those forms and being on retreat with Adyashanti and Norman pretty intensely for a few years, that's where the understanding of wholeness came to me. I
mhm,
would say pretty strongly in
mhm.
my 40s. It's just like,
Yeah.
I can't fool around here. There was something about me that was just
Mhm,
hair on fire, give it all to me right now.
mm,
Yeah. So I began teaching not that long after, probably 3 years after I helped Norman establish White Mountain Sangha. I just had this feeling in me, like, I think I'm supposed to. And I held on to it for a little while, but I couldn't really sit on it much longer, and I went to him and I said that, and he said, "Yeah, I've been waiting for you to come say that." So he invited me to teach, and I taught in that form for a little while and then realized it was very esoteric and not quite mine the way it was his.
mhm,
My sister is a nurse, and she had taken MBSR several years before, and I had a kind of ethical crisis at work after coming back from a retreat. This was all happening at the same time, and I called her and I said, "What was that form you were teaching?" And she reminded me of it, and I went and looked at the UMass Medical School's Center for Mindfulness website and said, "That's a form. I think I could express what feels like it wants to be said through me. I could express it in that form," and I quit my job. I went and did the training. I took a year. My husband and I and our family way scaled down our economy, our family
Mm,
economy, for me to be able to do that, and that just kinda kicked me off on my way to teaching MBSR. I had the same kind of hair on fire feeling when I went and did the training.
mm,
I'm going to teach professionally, not like
mm,
I'm going to make a lot of money or anything like that. It was more like,
mm,
I am going to teach, I am going to dress like a professional, I am going to market like a professional, I'm going to do this that well because it deserves that, and so that
mhm,
I can really understand what it is. I need to teach a lot to know what
uh,
this is about, and so I kinda went after it that way, and that worked out, and then about 6 years later, I was invited to the Center for Mindfulness to go down and teach MBSR there and to have the immersive training to become a teacher trainer, and
uh,
so I went through that process, and then the Center for Mindfulness closed in 2019. Rebecca Eldridge and I started East Coast Mindfulness just to continue our work online. And I did that and helped run that for a few years, and then I stepped back from that, but I still teach through East Coast Mindfulness. And that was the moment when the earth, which had been knocking on my door for years, finally said, "Now, me." And I'd say that's pretty late in my life, but
mm,
the space opened up, and that's what rushed in, and
mm,
that's how I dove into earth awareness, earth-informed teaching.
mhm. What a profound foundation for teaching. It sounds like it's just given you a huge amount of energy to pursue something radically different in your life.
Yeah, it's a very I sometimes use the metaphor of a blowtorch. Um,
Mhm,
I don't I don't hold back on imagery or, it's like the full range of human expression brought to bear in this teachings. Um, so I would say Norman opened up the stopcock on the blowtorch, and the practice has been how to deploy that, apply that, and how to refine how in a blowtorch, it's like it can be really wide and sort of
mm,
messy, but it
mhm,
also can be really pinpointed and
mm.
effective, and so figuring that out in life and in teaching has been a big
But
practice.
like focusing the energy, but being able to contain it and manage it because of, I guess, its power.
Yeah, it is power, it's responsibility, and it is so humbling.
It sounds to me that there was something about the discovery of secular mindfulness that chimed with you at that point. Is that correct?
So I don't use the term
Mhm.
secular because that just divides something that I don't find division
Mm,
around. But the mainstream accessibility of MBSR, the design of it, there's some structure around it that keeps it accessible. It should be accessible to anyone who's interested in the practice and potential. And the fact that it was built to be delivered originally in a hospital setting,
mm,
that the languaging and the offering of it should feel not pushing against anyone's particular faith tradition.
mhm,
So in that sense, right, it's like mainstream, accessible. I think
mhm,
that's what you're asking about, and yeah, that was a
mhm,
big part of it. Yes.
mhm. So it's inclusive.
Yeah, that's a great word.
It's not in conflict with any particular tradition or faith or philosophy.
It doesn't have to be. Some folks, of course, feel it that way, and
Sure.
that's true for them, and so that's important.
Mhm. Super. And I wonder if we could just get a little bit more detail on how you see mindfulness meditation. Do you have a particular way you describe that or define it?
Mhm, mhm. Yeah. My back pocket definition is awake in the moment, allowing what's here, relating with wisdom. So that's just my memory
Mhm,
device.
mhm.
Give it to my students. I don't know, hopefully they come up with their own, but that can be a
Yeah,
good placeholder, I feel.
yeah, yeah. And what about your personal practice? How do you keep yourself nurtured with mindfulness to maintain the motivation, energy, the spirit of it, the spirituality of it? What's your daily practice look like?
Well, you've heard that I am in a new phase of learning, which I love saying. Anytime there's like a new dimension, it's like I'm young again in practice.
Mm,
So now my practice is about strengthening that sense of awareness inwardly and outwardly. And the outwardly part, I've spent a lot of time in the inwardly part, so now it's the outwardly part in nature and creativity around experiencing that vastness that includes all life across time and space. That's my practice right now, and um, it's kind of endless. Spiritual.
mhm. It's really lovely to hear your background and get a feel for where you're coming from
Yeah.
with this. But what about your sense of yourself as a teacher? How would you describe yourself as a teacher of mindfulness?
Yeah, yeah, I have some notes here. It's like mad scientist scribblings. Your questions are good ones, and some of them I haven't thought about for a while. You just
Mhm.
kinda get to the doing and you're doing it. To have to sit back and kind of understand and articulate my own process and
Yeah.
what has fed it, it's sweet, but it's not so straightforward. My sense of myself as a teacher is, to embody what I have, what I've received and cultivated, to be that and to be the clearest expression of that I can. That feels like the main assignment. So then to apply in the way that I, am and interact and express. So that's the second most important part, and then the third most important part is to shape that into an offering that translates to the community who are interested. One thing that happened to me when I started teaching is a kind of spontaneous vow arose about realness. Sometimes I say it this way, I refuse to adopt a mindful personality. So authenticity, my own vernacular. I'll tell you that one of my values, for example, and I say this to teachers that I train, is efficiency. My culture, I think I hear it translated frequently. That means productivity, like speed it
Yeah.
up. No,
Mm.
no, no, but efficiency. That's like the cut through,
Mhm.
the direct as possible. We're
Mhm.
not I don't wanna encourage people to become, the great silent sitter, go to the Olympics style, I can sit, "Yay, I've really accomplished something." So, skillful means says, use your own vernacular, use all your human expressiveness and bring that to bear in the shaping and in the offering and in the embodiment. So people will see me gesture the way I gesture to my family. I'm not gonna hold anything back,
Yeah. Mhm.
you know? So that
Mhm.
feels like me. That's how
Yeah.
I would describe the meanness that's in my teaching. Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like the influence of Zen in there, in that directness. And I love the word efficiency in the way I think you're meaning it. Is how do you help people to get to realization, cut through all the fluff, that actually there are ways of teaching and scaffolding and facilitating that can help people get there quicker and at the same time in an authentic and sustainable way.
Yeah, I got a lotta argument with what you just said there, so that's great,
Have you?
like, we're
Great.
dialoguing.
Yeah, yes, yes. Great. Great, great.
Because you're helping me get a little clearer about how I might say it, and there's also a lot of truth in what you said. But to just make the offer, we teach people show up, they're a mix, such a mix. And some people are gonna come for stress reduction, and when they feel the relief of that, they're just gonna hang there and, like, just drink that up and rest.
Mhm,
So that's wonderful, but if I were only teaching to help everybody get to stress reduction, that would be a very limited teaching.
mhm,
But it's a great marketing bit, that in the title. It's a
mhm,
great marketing bit and it brings people in, but then there's a lot more that can be on offer.
mhm,
And what I wanna do is just offer as broadly as my realization, my understanding can, and to help different personalities and, different qualities of conditioning and patterns, and to help people get as much out of it as they can, and to recognize when they leave an 8-week course that this can continue, this can keep going. This is a very, very big field. I
Mhm.
love the MBSR curriculum. And I especially reference John's original, quite simplified curriculum. It's still my favorite, and it doesn't mean that I
Mhm.
don't touch into the later versions and find help there,
Mhm.
but but that one keeps it clean for me.
Mm.
Yeah.
I know you also, as a teacher trainer, you work with competency frameworks and things like that. And how do you balance that with the relational, inherently human aspects of mindfulness teaching? Do you think that there's
Yeah.
any ease with balancing those things?
Yeah, the mindfulness-based interventions teaching assessment criteria, that showed up in my teaching, like, the original version probably 3 years into my teaching. I remember receiving it, printing it out. So this is a teacher who's maybe taught I'd maybe taught, like, 10 cycles by then. I mean, I was teaching a lot right off the bat. But I remember receiving it, and it's a in its form then, it was designed for trainers to be able to look at a piece of teaching and to, locate qualities, themes, etcetera, in an organized way, and to be able to assess the piece of teaching. And I was just a teacher, and I can remember I opened it, I looked at it, I read one thing, I slammed it shut. My breath was taken away, and I was intimidated by it at the same time.
Mhm.
And I put it down, and I didn't open it back up until I got to go to a training with Willem Kuyken. It was a
Mhm.
one-day training down in, Boston,
Mhm.
and we looked at it together. I got familiarized with it.
Mhm.
So, jump way forward, and now I'm a teacher trainer at the Center for Mindfulness, and I was in a cohort of people working on research around the use of the MBI-TAC, the potential to be able to identify skills that then relate with outcomes with students.
Mhm.
That's a really cool tool, and
Mhm.
now we have the MBI-PAT, where students themselves have demonstrated that they can also identify these skills and qualities and capabilities in teachers, and correlate that with their own experiences. Like, the students can now assess in an MBI-TAC kind of way. How amazing is
Mhm.
that? I was
Mm.
on I was in the group that helped build the benchmark film clips so that trainers who were assessing teaching skill level would be calibrated together. So
Mhm.
that if one looked at a piece of film, it would be a pretty close assessment to the next and the next and the next.
Mhm.
So I had kinda zoomed from slamming that book shut to a really deep respect for that, and how it's been developed so that earlier teachers can have something that doesn't feel like it's gonna take your breath
Mhm.
away and you just wanna slam it
Yeah.
'cause it's too harsh a mirror. Whew. Not
Wow.
harsh, but,
That's
too accurate a mirror right now for me. It was.
yeah. And now you can smooth that transition out a bit more for people
Yeah,
through that understanding.
I didn't, but
Yeah.
we I can give that to, teachers who want to continue to develop, and that's a format that's really accessible at that level. Yeah.
Mhm. Fabulous. What have been your biggest lessons, if you like, from teaching teachers as opposed to teaching beginners who are encountering mindfulness for the first time?
Figuring out ways for them to get right back in the student mindset. Just like just get right back into that beginner stance,
The beginner's
curiosity.
mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
the willingness to be transformed, right? My favorite teacher trainees, it's the same term that my husband and I use with each other. "It's alright. I'm still trainable."
Yeah.
And it's the same with teachers and teacher trainees, and with me in this. If I can remain
Mhm.
when I say trainable, I think
Yeah.
it's like open, willing to find myself with my face flat on the floor again.
Mhm.
That's the best quality.
Mm. A lifelong learning mindset, I guess.
Mhm.
Now, I want to get a little bit more into your actual interactions with students and what good teaching practice looks like in the room, whether you've seen it in other people or you see it yourself. Sometimes in teaching, I'm a teacher educator by trade as well, and you know that sometimes there's something really special happening within a group that I guess the competency framework sometimes can't capture, and you just know it's there. What qualities do you see in other people when you're observing, or in your own teaching when you feel there's a profound moment or something like that within the room?
King of, Donald, I think he pronounces his name McCoon or maybe McCown. I'm sorry, I don't know. But he writes about this in that earlier book that's still to me the best book for MBI teachers. Um, teaching, the title of it is Teaching Mindfulness because there wasn't a book titled that before then. But he talks about the ecstatic.
Mhm,
I think he gives the analogy of flamenco dancers and dancing to the edge of madness.
mhm,
That's not to mean anything that is unsafe. It's more like the kind of moment that you're describing where it's that alive, unpredictable, vibrating.
mhm,
What I see
mhm,
is not available necessarily in the visual field, but I feel it in my stomach,
mhm,
in my chest, in my throat. When that is available in the environment, a transmission is happening. A student might suddenly come to breathlessness and be looking for their words, and everybody is tuned into it would be really hard not to be inside that with them.
mhm.
I know you know what I'm talking about.
I think I do. What's coming to mind for me is the egos of all dissolved to a large extent, and suddenly there's a flow of connection in those spontaneous moments where there's an attunement between everybody there or the significant number of people in the room.
Everyone's almost
Yeah.
on the edge of their seat.
Mhm,
Not
mhm,
so much posture, but just the that feeling of your awareness on the edge of
mhm,
realization, transformation,
mhm,
something greater, something more intimate is
mhm,
here, and we're knowing it, but even as you start to try and describe it or transform it,
mhm.
then it sort of settles back
Reduced.
down into maybe more common feeling.
Yeah. I think it's maybe the difference between understanding that conceptually what wakefulness actually is or what realness actually is to actually experiencing it beyond
Yeah,
the concept, beyond the idea of it.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm,
That transmission beyond theories, ideas, and speech.
mhm, mhm.
Mm.
Lovely. Thank you. What I'd really like to explore now is your underpinning values. I know you've implied and touched on some of them, but particularly bringing in the eco awareness angle. What are the values and what's your vision for people that come to you? Maybe a vision for the world.
Hmm. I would say there's nothing new under the sun here in terms of values. So if I said
Mhm,
wholeness that encompasses all life across time and space, that hasn't been missing in the idea set from when I began with my teacher Norman.
mhm,
When I think back on him leading outdoor walks, no instruction. He would just indicate to us to gather on his front porch, and then he'd just start walking, and it's like, "Oh, I guess we're going for a walk now." I mean, really,
mhm,
the
mhm,
transmission beyond words and ideas. Ah, he was inviting me into something. It wasn't quite available to me. Of course, it was lovely. It was lovely, but the teaching still felt like it was, um, pointing to human flourishing.
mhm,
And John Kabat-Zinn will take us outside at Omega, and we would walk in the field, and I had
mhm,
some really beautiful insights around that. practice. Like when you're ready, the teacher appears, and the earth really knocking on my brain and my heart, my chest. And since then, I've been in a community of Dharma teachers who have really dedicated their teaching to this matter, this interconnected aspect of the Dharma. It's not like it's a separate add-on, it's not. It's fully integrated and embedded in our life.
Mhm.
But because it hasn't been pointed to, that to bring it back in, it hasn't been absent forever, but it feels like the way the Dharma came to the West, it was a lot of Buddhist psychology, and we needed that. I get why that was sort of the focus of how it arrived here. But it's time to bust through those particular limits. The earth needs that. To the degree that I feel like as many teachers as I can convince, entice, encourage to take their practice outdoors, literally to get outside this container that is the human architectures, the human pathways. It's like we just navigate around and it really keeps us very limited in our understanding. And so think about relational practice that we do. It's a really powerful practice. And it's not kooky to undertake relational practice with the natural environment in your own back garden, in the park, in the ways that are available to you, and to get right back into early student mind where you don't know what you're listening for, you're not sure how it might register, and what new ways of knowing will come to you. If you're feeling some overwhelm from the multiple crises that the earth is experiencing, that the other side of that coin is that the earth is also inviting us to come into relationship. And then our ethos will naturally evolve to do what we need to do, to get active. So there's kind of my vision for the world, my values. There's a few things mixed in there, I think.
Yeah. It makes me think of the final stages of the loving kindness practice, that you extend that well-wishing, that metta out beyond the human population to non-human beings. And just extending as far as the earth. Sometimes that's a profound shift beyond the individual, beyond the human community.
What we're doing in the workshops where we gather teachers who are interested in this is we're just doing a lot of inquiry around how to integrate in ways that feel real and authentic, ways that these teachers have or are beginning to develop and can further develop, so that it's not a little piece during the raisin, a little piece during the loving kindness practice. It's like these little teaspoons. It's available throughout. So consider, awareness of breathing, which is a reciprocal process with nature. We're a being in nature, and the tree is a being in nature, and it's our nature to reciprocate with each other. And just having a really easy and accessible way to note that in guiding practice, to encourage people to experience it that way because it's true and what's happening. So there it is. It's landed in class 1 of the MBSR curriculum. Not to do it didactically, not to do it through a script, but to get yourself into the understanding of that, so that then it comes out of your mouth because it's who you are.
Yeah.
We haven't heard that many examples in the, decades of training. It's there, but I'm going to say I haven't felt it integrated in the way that I'm interested in and feeling is needed.
Yeah. Do you think mindfulness teachers have a responsibility to bring this into their sphere of teaching without it being that an imperative? There's a bigger picture that people need to maybe tap into.
Yeah, I'll say it this way. I want them to feel that. I feel it for myself, and I want to encourage MBI teachers to consider on that point. And we don't have a creed, we don't have a canon, we don't have commandments, right? We don't have imperatives. I love the ethos of the MBIs in that way. The ethos is care, compassion, non-harming, agency, voice, expression, relationality. That is an ethos. This is a huge misconception. And I think we've had a PR problem about that in the MBI field.
Mm.
So when we train teachers at East Coast Mindfulness, we ask them to spend time reflecting and writing about their ethos from early on, and it's a big part of each of the modules or components that we ask them to step through, and that we're watching them develop and evolve and how they articulate their ethos.
Mhm. Thank you so much. I think this relates very much to my next set of questions, a few questions on the future. And one is around what emerging trends are you seeing within the mindfulness field that maybe excite you the most? And how do you think mindfulness teaching needs to evolve in the next decade or so?
Yeah, I mean, you've heard me. I'm sort of like in the deep end of the pool
Mhm.
on, um, around our our care and connection with the earth. So that's the evolution that I feel is really important. And just to say, it's easy to to romanticize nature.
Mhm.
And that is not what this is about, although we might feel some incredibly beautiful experiences, but it's the full catastrophe, as John
Mhm.
Kabat-Zinn might say. So the
Mhm.
trouble that the earth is in, and also the power it is wielding and can wield.
Mhm.
Um, I'm gonna go on a tangent here, but I feel like it's important.
Yes.
One
Yes.
of the earlier earth awareness teaching retreats that I went on, I went through a particular practice, and we were asked to go and practice in a particular way, in with a being in nature or an environment, a particular environment in a particular way. I was there and just not knowing and feeling no particular, extraness or anything like that, but
Mhm.
then, uh an announcement, I'll say, an announcement came to me inside, verbalized in my way, this way: "If you choose to save me, I will support you. If you choose to ruin me, I will support you." In other words, nature's gonna take what we give her, and she's gonna do with it what she does
Mhm.
with that kind of thing. And we are living the effects of overuse, overconsumption, a sense of human supremacy. We're living the results of that, and that's really what that
Mhm.
message meant to me. It's like, whichever way you go, I'm gonna amplify it. That's just how this
Mhm.
works.
Mhm.
So that's what I feel is an important understanding for our field. We're seeing it in real time, and as much as possible to
Mhm.
try and go in that direction of
Yeah.
support, appreciation, sense of reciprocity, recognition of those 2 possibilities, and how do you want it? Yeah, and then what do I see as trends? Big trend is that I hear from my colleagues is that the long 8-week process is feeling less and less accessible to people. Maybe having to do with the attention economy, maybe having to do with the sense of speed and anxiety and overwhelm that we are in a shared environment of. Whether people know it like that or not, this is what's happening. Shorter forms, more accessible ways, doorways in. I mean, I love and continue to teach the 8-week class, but more ways for people to find their way into that.
Mhm.
The teaching that's available in that sort of form, it
Mhm.
just feels like it's being asked of us.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Are you optimistic about the future, and our ecology? Do you have some hope that the tide is turning, that the work that you're doing and the work that other people are doing can and is having an effect?
I am very optimistic in a particular way. I live and navigate in a country that doesn't have a name. It's the realm of environments, friends, groups, causes that are taking joyful responsibility,
Mhm.
joyful, respectful, sobering, um, roll up your sleeves responsibility.
Mhm.
And it's not like I wanna spend my time exclusively in that, I'll call it a realm, but I drink that up, I pay attention to it, I do spend a good deal of time because it nourishes me, and I know that it is nourishing to the right principles and qualities for what we need right now, and that realm, that kingdom is alive and well, and it's very attractive when you get into it and you feel oh, people can feel like this even in the way things are going down right now. The more people that can be attracted in toward that kind of a central feeling, it's not the idea, it's the feeling. It's the neurobiology, you
Mhm.
know, data set that says this is wellness, this is sanity. And it's a lot in the mindfulness field and then some also not, but it's also in action groups. The more time I spend in that, the more I want to feed that and nourish that and help that grow, and that's what is sanity and
Mhm.
recognition of how systems and cycles, can come back to wholeness with the overall planet.
Mhm.
Now, how that translates it for the next 50 years, the next 100 years, I don't have a view on that. I'll say this much, I have the view that that will survive and thrive, and how many
Mhm.
people will be left to bring it forward, or whether that will be the majority versus, minority or maybe a great majority that still feels like violence and extractionism and territorialism is the way to live. I don't know how that's gonna all balance out, and
Mhm.
it will balance out to some degree because that's just how things are. We need
Mhm.
we always need balancing
Mhm.
features.
Yeah. So well articulated. Thank you. I really like that term, joyful responsibility. That's a really nice way of phrasing it because responsibility can feel quite heavy and daunting and quite easy to give up on because it feels so daunting. Yeah, thank you very, very much. Just got a few final reflective questions. And the first one is, do you have a favorite poem, favorite reading, a favorite quote?
I do. I
Mhm.
brought something. I don't have it
Lovely.
memorized. My memory does not function well that way. It turns out that Martha Graham, who I've done so little reading about, I realize I should probably know more about her, but she was a dance teacher, choreographer, artist, and she said this once to a student. The student's name was Agnes DeMille. She said this, it feels like it's a bit of a lecture actually, but it's a direct transmission from one artist to another. She's trying to describe, I think, what we were earlier sort of pointing to, and she's just going through a list because you can't give it one word. So it starts off that way, but then it gets quite cleared up. So here's what she said. There's a vitality, a life force, an energy, a quickening that is translated through you into action. And because there is only one of you in all of time, this expression is unique. And if you block it, it will never exist through any other medium and will be lost. The world will not have it. It's not your business to determine how good it is, nor how valuable, nor how it compares with other expressions. It is your business to keep it yours clearly and directly, to keep the channel open.
I love that.
And there's an
Mm,
add-on. And I think I'm glad that you asked me to read that because it gets back to that question about uniqueness.
mhm.
And what a beautiful description of that, right?
Yeah.
Nope, the non-comparing, it's like,
Mhm.
I don't feel there's a bit of comparing going on in there. But here's the other thing that I think is especially apt for teachers. She said this, "No artist is pleased. There's only a queer divine dissatisfaction, a blessed unrest that keeps us marching and makes us more alive than the others." That's a pretty bold statement, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Oh, I love the radical nature of what you've just read out in both of those quotes. Just the struggle people have with finding their voice in the world and denying themselves of what is uniquely theirs. People often put more emphasis on what a few other people have said, and that might stop them doing what they really, really feel the need to do in the world because of a
Mhm.
few opinions here and there. As if other people know better, what is your calling? Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
The what or even the how, the
Mhm,
how.
mhm,
Um, Sometimes it's just a matter of the how part.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Who was your greatest teacher and why? I think you probably mentioned, but there might be something else that comes up.
That's that's a different answer over time, but
Mhm,
I mean in the conventional sense, and true in a lot of ways, it's Norman.
mhm.
And what about this white pine tree right out my window here? It's really giving Norman a run for his money.
I translate that as the earth is also your teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Greatest teacher. Fantastic. What guidance would you give to someone considering becoming a mindfulness teacher?
Well, I think I've said a lot about what feels important. The moment of considering becoming an MBI teacher, which is it's unusual on the earth because we self-select, at least as we begin, right? It's not the old style and the traditions where you wait for your teacher to tap you on the shoulder. So one really important consideration that's practical is who are your students?
Mhm,
There's a there's something going on right now about there being a lot of trained teachers who can't find students.
mhm,
And it's not like so much there's a lack of students, but if there's a natural connection with the population and you're having the sense that they're starting to come to you, kind of like, "You know something I don't," then you're going to have a view into a set of students who you can teach.
mhm,
In a way, it's like you be invited through that energy. Sometimes people say, "Wow, that looks so fun what she's doing. That's such great work. I should do
mhm,
that work." And you'll find plenty of centers who will, take your money and
mhm,
ask you some important screening questions, and you that works, you fit. So you can come through, but there's not somehow an invitation in some way.
mhm, mhm.
And at East Coast Mindfulness, Rebecca has really, strengthened that discernment part before asking someone to put all the time and money and
Mhm.
effort and energy and love into, developing as a teacher. It's not like a production line of people who won't have
Yeah.
a way to teach.
Yeah. I like the way you put that. It's like follow the energy. Again, I think that maybe links back to the uniqueness and who you are and what is a fit for you, what aligns well for you.
Yeah.
Lovely. And where can people find out about your work?
Yeah, my main project website is, MBSR-EcoAwareness.org, or you just search on the MBSR and EcoAwareness Project. And then my online MBSR teaching is through East Coast Mindfulness, and that's eastcoastmindfulness.com. And I have, bios in both places, a little bit different, but all representative. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. And I'll put a link on my website as well. But Margaret, thank you. It's been profoundly interesting to talk to you and thank you so much. I've really, really enjoyed talking to you about your practice, your work.
Thank you for your brilliant questions. It really brought me back in touch with some really important memories and feelings, and so it's been really wonderful. I thank you. I thank you most sincerely. Yeah.
Lovely. Thanks so much.
Take care, Michael.